first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body. Knocked away.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. The Celtics, they beat the Knicks in Boston. Bit of a blowout in the end there. We've got the potential revenge game tomorrow against the Sixers. Joining me as he often does, it's Wayne Spoony. Spoony, how's it going, man?
Ben, I'm doing wonderful. 3 straight. I have overcome my Drew Holiday related writer's block. I'm almost done.
Amazing.
So How Do You Drew should be coming out on Celtics blog in the next couple of days here, where it's a breakdown of how the Celtics are using Drew Holiday, and especially as compared to last year in Milwaukee, where he was basically their primary ball handler. So when that drops, check that out. But yeah, it's been a great week, man. Great couple days.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait to read that. That sounds awesome. Jake Eisenberg, he's also here. He's a happy guy. No salty Jake tonight. Jake, what's up?
No, salty Jake. There's nothing to be salty about. Last few games, 3 in a row. Celtics are back. MVP Tatum. Hauser's locking it down. Pritchard. Good again. Good at basketball.
Yeah, not terrible. That's all
That's
we ask.
nice.
That's all we ask. Just be not terrible.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate.
All right, well, look, the Celtics, they win 114 to 98. Winning this game with their defense, it seems. Spoony, are we witnessing a shift back to a defensive identity for the Celtics?
So I think this is a really difficult question because the offense has been lights out too. You know what I mean? And like last year, I think we were like the second or third overall best defense as well. I think that was a little bit smoke and mirrors at time. It felt like this year it does not feel that way. We've got the number 2 defense per cleaning the glass, third in the half court, second in transition. I think the biggest thing for me is that we're 5th in defensive rebounding percentage right now per cleaning the glass, which is like we were all, I think for good reason, all really terrified of how this team was going to rebound. We're not fouling. We give up the fewest free throws in the league on defense. So are we shifting towards a defensive identity? I don't necessarily know if we can say that, just because like we're shifting towards like a dominating identity on both sides of the ball is like what
championship
like this team
identity.
Yeah, exactly. Like this team is just loaded, dude. They are really, really good. And the one thing we're not doing defensively is we're still not turning people over, but the way we're defending,
coming, dude.
Who cares? Yeah, I think it is coming. We started to turn the Knicks over a little bit, so and I don't even care if they're going to play defense this well anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but like, man, that press, we're on the precipice. It feels like how many of those like almost 8-second violations or like tip balls? Like there's going to be a game where we get like 2 or 3, and it's going to be just Porzingis trail 3 to like cap off a run as Mike Gorman goes. Got it one more time. Go Ben.
Well, just Gorman was in form. I was just
Dude,
reacting
he's on.
to everything you're saying, but Gorman is he's back on one. He's really like bringing it home in all facets this season here. So it's good to see him back in his usual form there after, I don't know, wavering a little bit last year, understandably. Not to go too deep on Gorman too early, but had the eye procedure and everything. He's back on one this year, so it's great to see.
Dude, he's been really good. Yeah, not to go too deep, but maybe he just needed to go on the Al Horford. He's on the Al Horford program. No longer doing road games. We're just like, and then when he has to turn it on, he can. But yeah, the rebounding was definitely something that was a concern. I wasn't super concerned because I knew they'd have the ability to kind of like make it a team-wide focus. It was just going to be about whether or not they all bought into it. I think Porzingis has been a better rebounder than I thought he was going to be. He's definitely not an elite rebounder for his size. Absolutely, part of that. Not being heavy enough in the arse to spin that one a different way today. Tatum though is probably the head of the spear as far as like solving that problem. He's I don't know what he's at, like 10 rebounds, 9 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
He's been excellent on the boards, and then Drew's clutch rebounding across the board. The memo has been received, and everybody feels like a plus rebounder at that position. Even Pritchard and Hauser are rebounding at a level that like you're really impressed with on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, it was definitely a point of concern going into the season, just with the personnel we knew we were going in with, that rebounding wasn't going to be a strong suit for the Celtics. And even last night, first half against the Knicks, giving up countless offensive boards and second chance points to Mitchell Robinson and co. So to see them turn it around sort of holistically this season, and just in the second half of the game against the Knicks as well, really good to see. It's surprising. 5th in defensive rebounding, like, it's never been a strong suit for the Celtics for like as long as I can remember. Even back in the like Isaiah Thomas days, unsurprisingly, the dude's like 5'7" or whatever. But that was not a good rebounding team at all.
No,
even with more of a prime Al Horford, it was a huge difficulty for them. So I'm just used to the Celtics sucking at rebounds. So 5th is huge. The other thing, they're allowing the second least amount of shots at the rim. Initially, I was looking at the team accuracy and the high percentages at which teams were converting at the rim. But you look at the volume of shots that teams are taking at the rim, like they're just not getting there. So despite the accuracy, they're just not getting themselves in a position to score at that level, which is great. And shouts to Porzingis and I don't know, man, really the whole defense.
Everyone,
last night, they were on a string. Like they were just so fluid as a 5-man unit. And they're also allowing the team the second most from long mid-range, which, as we all know, is the least efficient shot. The 2019 Tatum's favorite shot, Jaylen Brown as well, back in the day. Not a good shot to take. So we're funneling teams into taking the worst kinds of shots. So no matter how you slice it, the defense, Spoonie, it's incredible. And they used it to beat the Knicks last night in what was an absolutely fucking gritty game.
It really was.
Yeah, it was a classic Celtics Knicks game.
Yeah.
It really was. And I think the most encouraging thing for me is the starters last year, that basically Smart instead of Drew Holiday and KP, or rather Al instead of KP, was not a bad defensive lineup. They were like 111.8 defensive rating, which would be like right in the middle of the league. Our starters they're the second best defensive lineup in the NBA right now. So like the starting lineup has leveled up defensively, and considering all the weapons they have offensively, like I just don't know how, like, they're not going to lose a lot of games when those 5 guys are healthy. It's just not going to happen. So that is, like, maybe the most encouraging thing to me, because under Udoka, the defense was really all about that double big lineup. Yep. And so I think there's questions like, oh, can we defend at that level with a smaller starting lineup? So far, the answer is absolutely resoundingly yes.
Wow, so are the numbers, like, kind of on par with the levels at that, like, January to like that 3-month window where Rob was healthy and like that defense was happening? Like that, are they that good? Because they're definitely better this year than last year. The like last season, they were like, every time you check the defensive rating, you'd be like, they're second, they're third. They ended the season second in defense, and they definitely had stretches where the defense was there, but it wasn't there consistently. Part of that had to do with Rob probably being in and out of the lineup. And even when he was healthy, like every second or third game, he just didn't look right. This team is all bought in, you can tell, on the defensive end. And whether or not that means that their identity is defense, maybe, look, their identity is buy-in. Like having everybody buying into defense. Like we heard in the offseason, Jaylen being like, we got to hang our hat on defense. We have like all these guys echoing the same sentiment. Also, Marcus wasn't the same guy defensively last year as he was the year previous. That was a big part of it. Like Drew's kind of much closer to the 2022 version of Marcus. But like maybe just buy-in and connectedness, everybody pulling in the same direction. That's the identity of the team. Sacrifice being the identity of this team, like everybody pulling for that one goal. Because on offense, you've got Jaylen trying to fit in and embracing, like figuring out the chemistry with Porzingis. Like even Drew, like he's taking 11 shots a game. That's the lowest since his rookie year, where he took 7 attempts. So Drew and all these guys sacrificing, that's maybe the identity.
You got those numbers,
quick.
Spoonie? You had breakdown face on? Yeah, great.
Yeah,
gave you some time there.
Yeah, from January 1st to the end of the season, the Horford, Smart, Jaylen, Rob, Tatum lineup had a 95.4 defensive rating, which would be like by far the greatest of all time. Yeah. It was like would have led the league by like 15 points per 100 that season. So I don't think we're quite at that level, but like we're a lot closer. And then if you replace Grant Williams for Horford, it goes down to 93.8. So not quite at that level, but we're a lot closer to that iteration's defense than we are last year's defense.
For sure.
At least when it comes to the starters, which I think is a great thing.
With an offense that is firing on all cylinders and far more impactful. And just getting back to the identity shift stuff there that you were hitting on, Jake, Horford as well is absolutely taking on a new role. And if you read Bobby Manning's tweets, like he's tweeted this sort of stuff out a few times, but that Horford is, quote, not thrilled with the situation change up from his perspective, which I found interesting. You would just assume that of all people willing to make that level of a sacrifice on the team, it would be the aging big, the vet, the 37-year-old guy who did lose a huge layer of his effectiveness in the playoffs last year, where his 3-point shot sort of began to diminish a little bit, and he was less effective when we really needed him here there deep in the postseason. Surprising to me that he seems, and we're just going by what a few media folks are saying here, but that he's seemingly less willing to make sacrifices, or less stoked about having to make those sacrifices.
I think you have to remember that Horford, as beautiful as he is, as gorgeous as Al Horford can come across, smooth as Al Horford is, you have to remember that he's like a fierce competitor and doesn't quite come across like the way that his personality is, going all the way back to college and winning a national title, the 1 seed, defensive monster year in, year out. He's been a winner for 20 years basically. So I think just the competitor in him wants to start. He's used to starting, but I understand that, and I do understand how he has struggled a little bit with the role. I think adjusting specifically on offense. I think defensively he's been really good, and we can run these defensive clips here because Horford features here. But this is 3 defensive possessions from the amount of possessions that I went through yesterday. I had to actually go through and watch the game, because when you're trying to pull clips, all of the New York field goal attempts were on NBA stats starting with 7 seconds to go, because that was when all of their shot attempts were getting off, because the Celtics were forcing them to start their first action at somewhere between 15 and 12, so that they were consistently having to find something with 7 or seconds left on the shot clock. I was I've never actually had to do this before, and it was a great sign. Annoying work-wise for me, but it's okay.
Those switches between Horford and Hauser as well in that first play that you ran, that's so fluid. Yeah, that was the case for the entire roster last night, all 8 of them. I think we ran an 8-man rotation, very, very short, and maybe we can touch on that in a second. But just the fluidity and the communication that goes into those switches, no gaps, there were no chances, nothing there, nothing easy for the Knicks, which is, very reminiscent of that 2022 defense, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I really like the way. So the one thing about that 22 defense was the scheme was not. It was complicated in the way they switched and how often they did, and some of the things they did and how they attacked ball handlers. But you knew they were switching everything at all times. That's not the case with this defense. Joe is going deep into the bag. He's all over the place, man. He's throwing zones. There was one play where we were in a 3-2 zone, and then it morphed into a 2-3 zone halfway through the possession. I wonder if that's just if somebody makes this cut, then you sink from the middle of the top back down to the 2-3. I was whoa, I've never even. This is what the Warriors do, that type of stuff. And then you add in the pressing. Then sometimes we're throwing switch at people. Sometimes we're in straight drop. And it's just it goes back to the versatility of this team is just absolutely insane, man.
Joe Mazzulla getting better in his second year when he has longer than a fortnight to prepare for the season. Yeah. That is surprising. Who could have seen this coming?
That possibly happened. Eric Weiss, friend of the show, he's dick lapping me during the show. He's sending me some stats here. The defensive rating of our starting lineup, 89.2 in 134 minutes played.
That's lower.
Yeah,
it's 11 games though. That was
but,
To
be fair,
with a 39 net rating, which is insane. But highlighting the defensive rating.
That stretch from January to March probably wasn't that many games either. That was just that one beautiful moment in time where Robert Williams was healthy. And That was that
If
chance.
Feels like a fever dream.
It really
I
does.
know, it feels so good. And also, if you want to dick like us during the show, please feel free. If you want to send us some stats, either in the chat here or Twitter DMs, feel free. We always love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that first possession that you ran there, Jake, I also want to say there's a clip on our Instagram at First to the Floor 18 of Jake and I just like getting ridiculously overexcited on that possession. So go follow us on all socials. And we made a note of this in the run sheet, but we do such a terrible job of like encouraging people to like the stream or subscribe to the channel or follow us on Twitter. Follow Jake and Spoonie on Twitter as well. So if you're here, you've been here for a while, you're enjoying the show, we don't do a good job of asking people to do that.
But
those
please
calls
do.
to action. So please do it. Yeah, I know it's cliche, but it helps us like navigate the algorithm and all of that sort of stuff. So very helpful if you do. Jason Tatum, guys, despite the great defense of the whole team in this game, it was a 3-point game with 8 minutes to go. Cue the Tatum 4-point play over Josh Hart, sort of falling back, starfishing on the ground there, and just that play being the impetus for the Tatum mega superstar takeover in this game. Spoonie, what else can you say? It's like you expect it, you're not surprised, and yet it's always as orgasmic as the last time.
Yeah. Speaking of orgasmic, using dick lipe as a verb to a non-Celtics fan,
Please
like
dick lipe me
they just
anytime.
dick lipe me would be. I don't know where people would think that's.
Dick
going,
us whenever
but-
you want. It's
Anyway, yeah, it's Tatum. Speaking of, never mind. Yeah, dude, like I just tweeted out like halfway through his takeover, like Tatum is just an assassin now. Like this, he just looked like so in control, so dominant. The Knicks had absolutely nothing for him. Like they had nobody that could guard him. Like they're throwing Grimes at him. They're throwing double. Like it didn't matter. They're trying to trap him on the pick and roll. And he's snaking it like he's like a point guard, like he's Jaylen Brunson, like he's slipping between the defenders and like Euro stepping around the help, and he's just like going by three people. I'm like, what the fuck is this? This dude is
it looks so easy for
6'9". Yeah. And look, some of the pull-ups, it's like if those don't go down, maybe we're sitting here being like, yet again, Tatum. But I felt like his process was right. I know you guys talked about it on Late Night, Jake, where you were like, he went to those like mid-range and post-ups first, got his rhythm, and then the pull-ups started coming. And he just like, once those start going down at that rate, like it's over, dude. Like it feels like he could score 100 if he starts that way, a game off like that.
He only took 4 3-point attempts in the first half, and I don't think all of them were like, the classic Tatum pull-ups. I think they at least 1 or 2 of them were in the flow of the offense. So like, it does feel like he's doing the searching from the 3-point out in way less. The only game that he's really done that comes to mind is the second Nets game, where 11 of his 17 attempts were from the 3-point line. But he has 100% been working from the inside out, and I noticed it like after 3 or 4 games that Tatum was like at 50% from the mid-range, and I was like, okay, it's 3 or 4 games. That's too small of a sample size to really start to read anything into. But it was clear that it was definitely becoming part of the process, specifically coming out of the post, those turnarounds and stuff. But then the last couple games, and especially yesterday, posting up those small defenders, Josh Hart, it's definitely something that he has gotten to in the playoffs, but not been able to consistently knock down in the regular season. So like his last 3 years combined, he's like at 37.5% from the mid-range. First, how many games have we played? 10?
10.
8, 10? 10 games this season, 51.6% from the mid-range. And that's like, even if that's high, if that comes down to like the mid-40s or like even like the 43% range, that's a shot that you can feel comfortable him going to. He's only taking 3.1 of them per game. But if he's able to add that element to his game now, that's just, again, a new element, a new sign that he is leveling up, taking that leap.
Yeah, he's taking 3.1 a game, but I think he's posting up more than that, and there's just passing opportunities and playmaking opportunities that come out of that because of him being such a shooting threat to begin the season. I know we haven't seen that many passes out of post-ups the last few games, but particularly to start the season, he was spamming that a lot more harder. So it's a tool in his tool belt that he can go back to once defenses adjust to him shooting at such a high clip from that position. There was a quote from Bob Ryan after the game. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because Bob Ryan's a little bit like
curmudgeon.
Phrase this delicately. Like he's pretty locked into like the period that he covered, to put it fairly and accurately. So for him to say, ladies and gentlemen, Jason Tatum is finishing this game against the Knicks with a big time bird-like flourish, isn't that what people have been asking for or from him? That's high praise given the position that Bob Ryan is in with the era rather that he covered. So I thought that was worth highlighting. Anything else on Tatum, guys, before we move on? We could probably just talk about Tatum for another couple of hours.
I was going to say, so I would say 10 games, 8 out of 10 have been MVP caliber. There's been 2 that haven't been. And like, I think that's a pretty good mark. If 80% of the games he's at an MVP level and the other 2, it's like that weird kind of floating range. I haven't tracked like what's like, how, Jokic feels like he's the same every single night. But even like no one else in the league right now is consistent like that. Steph has his off nights. Luka has his off nights. Everybody does. So, yeah.
Yeah, real quick, few numbers on the post-ups. He's shooting out of post-ups 3 times a game. Jake's got the Kelly Olynyk hair from the comment section here, which is like super high praise.
Yeah.
Olynyk has beautiful hair. Yeah, neon Jesus.
Flowing.
Yeah, he's shooting out of post-ups 3 times a game, so that means he's posting up way more because he's not shooting every time out of it. That was 1.4 last year. 94th percentile in efficiency last year. He's at the 90th percentile in efficiency this year. So he's more than doubled the number of times he's doing it, and he's keeping the same efficiency.
That is
just like
serious, dude.
That's very good.
Okay, let's go.
Insane. Everyone ahead of him, he's 12th in the number of post-ups per game. Everyone ahead of him is either really tall or really wide, meaning Zion. So like he's just by himself as like a wing who's posting up this much.
He's 12th in the league in post-ups per game.
Number of post-ups, yeah.
Wow.
That's
a
we
lot.
like it, dude. We like when last year he barely qualified for like some of the you're going to make a graphic, it's like minimum possessions. He wasn't making even the list. When we begged for it, and look, dude, a lot of the stuff that we asked for from Tatum and this team is like happening 10 games in.
Can we send Sam Cassell a nice bottle of wine? Is that appropriate? I would like to do that.
Me too. The last piece for Sam Cassell, when are we getting the big balls dance? Who's it going to be? I don't think it's a Tatum thing. He's too chill.
It's going to be Pritchard. PP,
It is.
balls,
That's
come on.
perfect.
Yeah, that's too easy. Layup. Nailed it.
We are going to be right back to talk about Jaylen Brown, but first, a quick word from our sponsor. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So Jaylen Brown, not the perfect game.
I got one.
Not the perfect game. Not a great game. Oh, you got a bet. I was going to go straight to it. Yeah, please.
No.
Hit us up.
I've always got a bet. It's a quick one. Just Nuggets money line versus the Clippers. Just hop on board the James Harden disaster train, and you're going to get your bonus bet right there.
Sounds like sound advice. if acted on responsibly, of course. Gamble responsibly.
$5 only.
Yeah. Solid. Jaylen Brown. Different vibes to James Harden at the moment, thankfully, I think we can say with accuracy.
Yeah.
Not the perfect game from Jaylen in this one, a little up and down, but he's certainly impacted the game on both ends, I think is fair to say. Spoonie, was it a positive game or a negative game for Jaylen Brown?
So I think if you look at Jaylen's stats, you're like, kind of a below average Jaylen. I loved how he played in this game. I thought like his defense in the last couple of games has been like worlds better than it has in the past. And I thought he moved the ball fairly quickly. I think he attacked at the right times. He had a few kind of out of control drives, but that happened. Tatum has those too. But for he had 6 assists, and it just feels like he's getting to that number 5-6 assists way more often this year. I thought most of his like 3-point attempts, he had 1 or 2 like kind of crazy pull-ups, but that's fine. He makes those shots. You want Jaylen feeling like confident and free to take those types of shots if he's feeling it. and he's an absolute monster in transition. So I think like the stats don't tell the story of how good Jaylen Brown played last night and has been playing recently. I think we talked about it last show. It's like I think Jaylen's made sort of a subtle. I actually, Jake, I think you said it, he's kind of figuring out what this team needs from him since he's had the biggest adjustment. And I think we're gonna have a stretch here where Jaylen just really pops, and I think it's gonna happen soon.
Jaylen Brown, single game plus minus is always one of those weird things that everybody says. It's one of those weird things. But I feel like Jaylen's often like his box score numbers and what you see on the screen kind of like match up. And I feel like this is a new thing for like Jaylen goes 7 for 18, 2 for 9 from 3 turnovers. If you told me that, it'd be like, and the Celtics win by double digits, it'd be like, that'd be a classic Jaylen Brown -4 night or something like that. The fact that he was a plus 17 last night, I think, is a really good sign. The fact that he's buying into that, doing the dirty work is a big thing. Really buying into that gang rebounding, and he has a new best friend, the Latvian legend, the Bear Slayer, which this is, I believe, the Latvian.
Done some research.
the Latvian legend, the Bear Slayer. Jaylen, the energy shifter and the Bear Slayer, the duo we didn't know we needed, but we definitely did. It's a big part of why Jaylen's like finding success here. I think that he's it's like all feeding in together.
They're best buddies. I love it. I was saying it on late night last night, Jake. Like we were looking for little like things to sink our teeth into, to get our hooks into, as far as emotionally getting behind the team. And this little buddy cop story that's beginning to emerge with KP and JB is awesome. One great thing about living in this time zone is when you wake up in the morning, all of NBA Twitter has gotten their hands on the tracking data from the games the day before. So you wake up to this influx of data that you just consume like before you even get out of bed. And Greeny had some good stuff on Jaylen Brown coming out of the game yesterday against the Knicks. So on Jaylen Brown, he guarded Julius Randle on 21 possessions and allowed 0 points on 0 of 3 shooting over 21 possessions. That's insane. He also guarded Jalen Brunson on 14 possessions and allowed 0 points on 0 of 2 shooting. And he guarded Josh Hart on 10 possessions and allowed 0 points on 0 of 0 shooting. Just like locked down from an individual defense perspective, anyone that he was assigned to. And then we've already talked about the team defense. The team defense can't be good if there's if there's a weakest link in the chain situation going on with Jaylen Brown. So it was great team defensively, spectacular individually. And then we've seen you guys pointing it out and some thoughts in the comments as well about his rebounding really being notched up this season as well. So Spoonie, I think you're right, and I hope you're right, and I hope it's soon that we see this uptick in his offensive production, and a Jaylen Brown Eastern Conference Player of the Week or even month coming up soon.
Wow,
that'd be spicy.
Yeah, and I love how different those guys are that he guarded. Like you've got the normal wing-sized guy, Josh Hart. You've got the shifty, footworky point guard in Brunson, and you've got like I don't even know what Julius Randle is, like a wrecking ball with arms.
I hate him, dude.
I hate the way that him play basketball.
Dude,
prayers up for Porzingis' knee.
He just he already tore apart Plumlee's knee. Now Porzingis' knee, because the only way he knows how to play is by just bouldering into people amidst his frustration about throwing brick after brick into the ocean.
And Jaylen shut him down, so it's beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Shout out Jaylen Brown. There was a comment upstream a little bit about us not praising Jaylen Brown. I don't know where that's come from because we're all about the Jaylen Brown praise here, and we find it extremely difficult to give him negative thoughts when they naturally occur because that's not who we are as people. Anyway, someone else that we'll give positive praise to, Samuel Hause Money, the House Trap.
Every day.
House Party Hauser. So good. Just we talked about it on late night last night, and we always talk about the non-Tatum lineups. And there was an issue with non-Hauser lineups last night in the first half because Tatum went to the bench. We had everyone but Tatum still in the game, so Horford came in for Tatum. And you think, okay, that's the best possible non-Tatum lineup to have out there, personnel-wise. And they immediately faltered as Tatum went to the bench, despite the talent that they had out there. But then instead of Horford, a little bit later, Sam Hauser comes in, starts hitting infinite threes at an insanely high clip, just splash, splash, splash. Like he hit one from so deep, which I think was actually in the second half, but so effective and just kept this team in it until they came out in that second half and turned up their defense and aggressiveness and ultimately won the game. Sam Hauser, I mean, Spoonie, how else can you phrase it at this point? Like, he's just the best.
Like this is how I know like he is like this next level of like shooter, is that he had an open corner 3 and it rimmed out, and I was like floored that he missed that shot. Like I was legitimately shocked he missed that shot.
Yeah.
So he was shooting 63% on open threes going in, or wide open threes going into the game. I suspect that has gone up after that game. I think he was 3 for 4 on them. So I mean, like, look, that's just such a weapon. And even if he's not shooting the ball, it creates so much extra space for your stars, because if you help off him, they just kick it to him and he buries the shot. And if you don't help off him, you're playing 4-on-4 against some of the best players in the NBA. And when they have that much room, there's absolutely no stopping JB, JT, and KP. So, or Drew Holiday, who like also is our 5th option and can just post people up whenever the hell he wants, apparently.
He's up to 47.5% on threes for the year. 10 games, including the slump, where he was like 20% for the first few games. And he's only 25. Just looking at his stats now, reminding me how good his dimensions are as well.
Put it away,
like
man.
6'7", 25. 98 kilos or 217 pounds for the Americans in the chat. Just dimensions, the three-point stroke, the vibes, the nickname potential. It's hard to say a single negative thing about this guy at the moment.
The contract, he's making $12 million a year.
My God.
You know, like some might argue that 47% is unsustainable. I would counter that by saying that he shot 49% in his sophomore year of university. So there's still room for growth, I think. I don't see why we can't get up to the 49% mark for the season. But yeah, dude, like he missed 2 threes yesterday, one of which rimmed out. The other one was like a mid-court buzzer beater. And other than that, the one that he hit from like the logo just like didn't even consider touching the rim. He hasn't touched the rim in a week, it feels like. It's unbelievable.
Love to see it.
Yeah,
and all those concerns about the bench. I know Pritchard is still far from perfect. He did hit a really important
big 3,
clutchish shot. Heavy contest, really tight closeout. Hit a big 3. As soon as that went up, I was like, there's no chance that shot's going in. And of course, of all the attempts that he's had, all the wide open looks, that's the one that goes down. But very important. So great to see the bench trending upwards, led by Sammy Hauser there.
Look, Pritchard definitely played with more confidence yesterday. He's been playing with a little bit more confidence, and he's actually been impacting the game. So, like, he's been good overall, I would say, and he's shooting 33% from the field. And so, like, it's bad. And 27% from 3, 23% from 3. So, like, once that comes hopefully up to where we know he's capable of, then that's the whole vision achieved. Done.
I thought both Hauser and Pritchard defensively were awesome
Really good.
last night, too. Like, Pritchard had times where he was ISO'd on Randall, and he did enough to at least let help come over, which is all you ask. And Randall is loath to pass the ball, so it's an
so
effective way. It's an effective way to defend him. Just bring hard help, force him to finally pass it, and you've already like pre-rotated when the pass happens because it takes him so damn long. So, I thought both of those guys were awesome on that end too, which is like, if you're looking at our bench outside of Horford, or at least with those two guys, you're thinking like, well, yeah, we know they can shoot it, but on the other side, maybe they'll give up more than they add to the team. And so far, that's not been the case. Like, Pritchard hounding people for 96 feet.
Full court, dude.
That's valuable, man. Like, that sucks to play against. So I'm very encouraged by those two dudes on that end, too.
Do you rate Pritchard as a screen navigator as well? Because we were getting caught up on those Mitchell Robinson screens early in the game, and I felt like, particularly in the second half, Pritchard did a really good job of sort of like ducking through them, even if it was going under at times, and getting back out to the ball handler there. He seems he can be somewhat effective in that sense defensively also.
Yeah, I think he's a lot better at it this year than he has been in the past, definitely. I mean, nobody's going to be Derek White, but it's certainly helpful to have that guy teach you how to do it, because a lot of it's footwork. Like, Pritchard, for his limits athletically and size-wise, is quick laterally. Yeah. And that's all you really need to stay in front of guys, and that's how you get around screens, right? Your footwork's right, and you move quick laterally. So, I thought, like, seriously, really, really impressed with his defense, and screen navigation a big part of it.
Yeah, man. Now, he just good. Ahead. Just solid. Like, just solid. He fights. Like, he's the Pritch dog right here, like, in the comments. He is going to fight, And he's just not a turnstile. Like, he's at least, when he gets matched up onto these bigger guys, he at least forces a jump shot a lot of the time. And, like, they make it, obviously, because they can shoot over him, but he makes them work, and that's all you can ask for.
Shout out my buddy Raffy from home in the chat with the Pritch
Pritch
dog.
dog.
Yeah, one of my good
Raffy?
buddies.
Nice. Love it. Let's end on this, guys. So the Sixers, the revenge game, potential revenge game at least, right around the corner. How do you guys expect, Jake, we'll start with you, Joe, to adjust the game plan coming up against the Sixers based on what we saw from them a week ago?
I've been thinking about this because the Sixers have emerged as the second best team in the East, like, pretty comfortably now. And again, just driving, I did a CPR course this morning, so I'm ready to save lives.
I might need that if we lose tomorrow.
Yeah.
FYI.
Yeah. I'll pop through the screen. Yeah, Aussie Phil on point as per usual. Fuck the Sixers. They are, to defend the Sixers now, like, they really have two guys that you're scared of with the ball in their hands. Like, yes, they've got shooters, but outside of Maxey and Embiid, there's not a lot of creation outside of that. And so I do think that, they didn't try trapping Maxey at all. And I do think that's something that he doesn't have a lot of experience dealing with. He's small. So, like, when you trap him with a Tatum and a Porzingis or an Owl or whatever, like, that's a lot of length and intelligence to pass around that I think you could really bother him. I just wonder if it's worth even doing that, though, like, in the regular season. Like, do they make any real adjustments right now? Is it worth doing it because the playoffs are so far ahead? So you may as well try some adjustments just to see if it works, because the impact on the playoffs is far out. You're still going to play the Sixers 2 more times anyway. I don't know. I think there's definitely plenty of stuff they could do, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't change that much.
Yeah, I think part of it too is, like, I always try to be cautious not to overreact to a bad shooting night. And look, we generated more corner threes than Philly did. They shot 50% on them. We shot 31% on them. And, like, if that's flipped, that's an easy Celtics win, right? So, and I thought the defense that game, like, there was more we could do against Maxey, especially when Embiid's off the court, Jake. I think that trapping is, like, the way to go. There's just no reason not to do it. But ultimately, like, we generated pretty good looks. If KP is not hurt, if he's playing, I think what we'll see is KP spaced out, it seemed like, deeper behind the line against the Knicks and really dragged Mitchell Robinson out. And if Mitchell Robinson didn't guard him, he just popped a 28-footer and buried it, right? Like, and that's those extra couple of feet is so important against these big shot blockers because they're a little slow-footed, but they can block you from behind if they have time to recover. So, like, if I expect if KP plays, we will see him stretching further back from the line. And yeah, defensively, Jake, I like where your head's at a lot with some trapping here and there, but go full Belichick on these dudes, man. Don't reveal too much of the hand on them. Like, don't go too crazy, Joe. Like, maybe some press.
Because Nick Nurse is, like, kind of like, he's not Doc. Like, we know can, like, drum up some pretty like smart playoff tactics and strategy. So you don't want to give him too much.
But, I mean, trapping a dynamic ball-handling guard, it's not a new tactic, right?
No.
It's not like they'd be surprised if we suddenly did that in the playoffs, having not done it all regular season. So I think, especially where the seeding's at now, if you can pull that out and use it to good effect and win the game and get back on top of the seedings there in the East, and I think you've got to do it. And it's going to be
win,
difficult.
Ben? It sounds like is this a must win?
And given the loss a week ago, it's a must win. I'm giving it the Ben Dallas must win stamp there, as always. As is every game against the Sixers. They are losing now by only 7 to the Pacers now, and Maxey has just 12 points midway through the third quarter there.
Yeah, so we do get them off the back of a back-to-back, which is nice too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take it, though. I mean, yeah, we just want to beat these guys. Anything else? I guess the Porzingis thing we should touch on as well. He obviously copped a few knees to the thigh. It looked like he's out with a knee contusion potentially tomorrow. There was one collision with Julius Randle that we spoke about. Josh Hart, another sort of dodgy like undercutting of KP's landing there a little bit. He played out the rest of the game, so like it's not like, I mean, we're just speculating here, but there's some sort of structural issue with the knees, probably, again speculating, pulled up a little sore and is potentially considering not playing the game. Is it a game where Al Horford could maybe, if you've got one person to play in lieu of Kristaps Porzingis, you're kind of glad that it is Al Horford because he still can space the floor. He still can play somewhat solid defense on Joel Embiid. Like, do you still have some hope going into the game, I suppose, is the right way to ask it if KP is out?
Look, if you ask me what do I want KP to play and not play? I'm going to choose I want KP to play. But there is a pretty big part of me that wants to see what it looks like for Al when he's been on the, the rejuvenation plan to start the season. Like, he's playing like under 20 minutes a game to start the season. So like KP out, put Al in the starting lineup. You know he gets up for these Philly games. I would like to see what Al could do in a matchup against Philly and Embiid with KP out, and you can kind of ramp Horford's minutes up, and maybe you give him the next game off or whatever. But I would like to see it just because I think he'd be stoked. The competitor, the man would be ready to freaking go.
I'm about to say something incredibly stupid.
Oh, yes.
No.
All right, let's go.
I kind of want to see what Luke Cornett looks like on Embiid this year. Like, he's big enough. I know. I don't think it's going to go well, but like, he's big enough to defend Embiid. So like, let's see, like, if that works for 15 minutes while Al starts, like, maybe that's something we can go to in the playoffs to just kind of wear him out a little bit. Like, banging against Cornet's it's harder to do than banging against Kristaps, that's for sure. And like, maybe save KP. I'm not saying like, let's play Luke.
Start Luke.
Yeah.
Start Luke.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's game 5. The Celtics are up 3-1. Embiid's kind of going a little crazy, but get some fouls on him, like wear him out a little bit, and then he slows down in the fourth quarter and we win the series 4-1. There's like, you never know what you're going to need. You never know what you're going to need in the playoffs is all I mean. So let's see Luke on him a little bit. Or Kata. I'd be fine with that.
Kata's got the questionable tag as well, so he could potentially be ready to go. I wonder if it's like he's probably okay to play, and if Porzingis doesn't play, then maybe they give him a try. My prediction is that Porzingis plays. That's my prediction, is that they're going to want to get this win.
Yeah, to hopefully give him a nice restful spot on the back of the plane there where it can stretch out, electromagnetic pulsing on his thigh muscles or whatever the treatment is. I'm not up to speed on those things, but it certainly didn't look like anything particularly bothersome given that he played out the rest of the game. So we'll see. I hope he plays too because I hate the Sixers. But we should say like prayers up and all thoughts going to Kelly Oubre, because as much as we hate the Sixers, this obviously transcends how we feel about the team, and that's just such a terrible, unlucky thing. So I hope to see him back on the court very, very soon. That's all.
I did see that he's like on the exercise bike already and stuff like that. I was in a Sixers live stream watching the first quarter of the Pacers game, just doing my reconnaissance, and they were talking about how he's back in the facility. So.
Great.
Seems to have avoided any catastrophic issues, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
Which is good
to hear.
Yeah.
So we are going to be doing playback for the game tomorrow. Playback.tv/first to the floor. Firing up the playback room right before Celtics Sixers tip off. If you're not part of the playback room already, we've got 200 members there. It's a great way to watch the game. It's just a watch party. Our faces are on the screen. The game is on the screen as well, obviously, if you've got an NBA League Pass subscription, and you can hang out and talk shit about the Sixers as we digest the game. So lots of fun. Playback.tv/first to the floor. Guys, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, like and comment. Help us navigate the algorithm. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time, Jordan Crawford, Player of the Week 2013. Never forget. See ya.
I love